Hello, my name is Joe Van Fleet, and I'm the second trumpet player in the Lexington Philharmonic Orchestra. And today I'm going to answer four very good questions from one of our younger audience members, Juniper.
It looks like there are only 3 buttons to push down. Can you only play 3 notes?
When you look around the stage at a lot of the different instruments, you're going to notice, particularly in the woodwind family, there are a tremendous amount of little buttons and levers, and on the violins you can see them moving their fingers all along the necks of those things, and they do that, and that allows them to play different notes. But on the trumpet, as you've noticed, we only have the 3 valves, 1, 2, 3. And without the valves, you can only play just a handful of notes, basically these, starting on low C. That's basically what you can do, and you can go a bit higher, but that gives you an idea of what the instrument is capable of doing without the helps of valves, and that's sort of how the instrument worked hundreds of years ago before the valves were invented. But what the valves do is when we push these things down, like the second one here, it adds on this little bit of tubing right here, this bit of tubing. And so without the valve, the air comes in the lead pipe, it goes around the tuning slide, and then it comes straight over here to the bell and out the bell. So the air is going about 4 feet in length through the instrument. But once we add the valve, as I mentioned here, the second valve, it adds on that little bit of tubing. If we do the first valve, it adds on this longer piece of tubing. If we push down the third valve, it's adding on that quite long bit of tubing. So the instrument is getting longer and longer, or shorter and shorter, depending on the valve combinations we're using. And what this does is it changes the pitch. So if I play a G and then I push down the second valve, you're going to notice the pitch goes down by 1/2 step, which would be like if you're on the piano and you just go one note to the left, either a black or a white note, depending on which one comes next. Key, I should say, not note. So here we go. This is a G. I'll push down the second valve and it takes us down a 1/2 step to F sharp. If we do the first valve, which is longer, it takes us even lower. And then if we use all the valves in combination, we can play all the notes.
Why is it so loud?
To understand why the trumpet's so loud, I think it's important that we briefly discuss how the sound is actually made on the trumpet. And that happens with this little thing here, the mouthpiece. All of the instruments in the brass family have these, and that's why they're members of the brass family, essentially. And what we do is we buzz our lips in the mouthpiece. So that's the core of what's happening when you play and make sounds on the instrument. And then the reason it's loud is the trumpet or the trombone or the horn or the tuba just acts like a giant amplifier. And so we're putting in this sound, and because it's made of metal and it's designed, it sort of became relevant because it was loud. So the loudness of the instrument has been sort of accentuated as it developed throughout history. So we got this, and then we add it into the trumpet, and you can hear the difference in the sound and how it gets much, much louder. And so all that energy that's occurring when we're buzzing the mouthpiece then gets projected out through the bell fairly efficiently. And that's why when you're listening to the orchestra and it's the end of the piece and you need a really loud note on top, you can use the trumpet, and hopefully the audience hears that pretty clearly.
Does it take a long time to learn how to play the trumpet?
On a lot of the musical instruments, you can make sounds on them fairly easily. That doesn't mean you're going to be great on it immediately, but if you've never played a piano before, you could walk up to one and play the highest note and the lowest note immediately with no explanation, and just touching the key, it's going to sound exactly like a piano sounds. You could take your fingers and rake them down the keys and play a massive scale from top to bottom. The same on a lot of the string instruments. I'm not saying that you would be good or you would be an artist or a musician just because you can immediately pick it up and make the sounds. But that's the nature of those instruments, learning those instruments. The trumpet, on the other hand, is pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult to physically figure out how to make a beautiful sound on the instrument. It's not a real natural process. So for a younger student, it could very easily take 5 years to just get a pleasant sound, a nice sound. And there are a lot of times when I'm playing and it certainly doesn't sound good when I'm practicing. I think, wow, it's, all these years I've been playing. But I think the reason it does take such a long time to learn how to play the trumpet specifically is that the muscles to play take a long time to develop, and to find the efficiency to develop endurance is kind of a tricky challenge for a lot of people. And just forming the embouchure correctly is also something that doesn't seem to come natural to a lot of people. So those are probably the main reasons I would say that it does take a long time to learn how to play the trumpet. One thing that's easier on the trumpet is our music. The music that's written for us in most orchestral pieces is fairly simple. We don't have to play a lot of the extremely technical things like you might hear in the strings, or some of the real touchy things that occur in the woodwinds. We do at times have to play stuff like that, but the actual notes that we're required to play aren't that difficult. Just making the right sound at the right time for us is often actually pretty tricky.
Can a kid play the trumpet or just grown-ups?
Absolutely, kids can play trumpets. Most often, I think kids usually start learning the instrument in school in 5th grade or 6th grade, and then they can play obviously all the way up through high school. And kids that are much younger can play as well. My little boy started playing probably when he was 3. He didn't really love it, and if you heard him, you would understand why. But he didn't love playing a lot, so he didn't, practice a ton. But he can pick up a trumpet and play it about as loud as anyone I've ever heard. And then we go ahead and put it down and lock it up. But yeah, absolutely, kids can play. So if you're a youngster, I'm not sure how old you are, Juniper, but I'm sure you would do a great job learning how to play trumpet. And as a final comment, I hope to see you, Juniper, at the concert hall soon, and all of our other fantastic audience members. I hope everyone is very safe and takes care of themselves, and look forward to seeing you soon and playing some great music for you. Thank you so much for your support.